Hello guys, welcome to my new video, and even though it is very late here, I really wanted to do an overview of my preparation towards Shadowlands and using this amazing guide by Medivh. It honestly is one of the best intro documents that you can find right now, especially if you're looking or if you're approaching Shadowlands as a mythic raider. Now, if you haven't looked already into Shadowlands, reading this guide, and I mean there is a whole lot of information here, and I'm talking about a lot, you might be super confused. And I decided to do a video, and I streamed this as well, where I go through some of it and I talk about the things that I find important. Keep in mind, everything's gonna be linked. There's multiple resources or documents I'm going to use here with the hopes of helping you to prepare for Shadowlands and maybe optimize your character in a way, or maybe even just filling in the gaps in terms of your knowledge towards what's happening, because there is systems on top of systems on top of systems on top of systems, which is not a bad thing, but it can be overly complicated if you just look at this. So if you look at the preparation, you'll see all the things you need to do right now before Shadowlands is released. And this is really great because I already did those. I already got my mount equipment. I didn't really get the gems, but if you want, you can get it. You can get the flasks depending on how expensive they are. I think a lot of people right now in auction house are bringing up the prices because people, they know. Everyone knows that everyone's buying flasks, they're buying pots, they're buying HP potions. Shadowlands is not about speed leveling, because by speed leveling I mean this. You're not gonna go and focus on like boars for 5 hours because those boars give you the best experience and you're gonna hit level 60 before everyone else. You actually need to do the whole storyline quests in order to get the covenants. That's the first time. The first time you're gonna do it on the first character, do every single campaign quest. You're gonna need to do some side quests as well in order to get level 60, but campaign quests, do them all, and on your alt character you get an option to skip campaign and go in any order that you want. The first character, you want to get all the quests or all the campaign quests done. And this is another important one, and this is your XP potion, and this is gonna work during 50 to 51 leveling, and this is very important because you want to get ahead of the pack. You want to get more availability towards the mobs and things like that. So make sure to get it, and you can get it with something like, you know, Legion service medals. There's a different location for Alliance and Horde, but just look it up. Look up where you can get this, get a couple of those, use them. You'll be ahead of the pack. You'll get 10% increased experience, at least for the first level or so. Then you have a lot of the food, augment runes, blood, drums as well if you want to. You kind of want to get pets, and this is gonna basically cover some or majority of your needs to get ahead of everyone else and, you know, just level quite fast. In terms of the pathing, you'll notice, and I'm gonna skip through this really quickly. The first time you do it, you go into the mod, then you go to Erebos, then you go Bastion, Maldraxxus, followed by Ardenvale, and then Ravendread. In Ravendread, you will have to do side quests. You'll see here the 4 locations in Ravendread. This location we are not only doing campaign, but also all the extra quests that will be on the way. In total, you need to do about 10 side quests and 2 bonus objectives upon arrival at Sinfall, and are taking the quest. And so basically you're doing a lot of things. Outside of that, you're focusing on this. All story quests marked with this icon. We do these quests up to Ravendread. Once you finish leveling with your main, you'll notice that you'll get an option to skip if you want to and go basically your own route or not follow the story, and that's very important. So this is why when you level alts, you'll have a lot more freedom rather than just following this little diagram in terms of your leveling experience. In terms of covenants, I don't want to talk about too much about covenants because I feel a lot of people might know about covenants already. I hope that everyone knows the general idea of what covenant they're gonna pick. There's a lot of explanation in terms of what happens when I swap to a covenant, what happens when I want to go back to the covenant, and just to show an example, covenants really do affect your gameplay. You're going to get 2 unique abilities based on covenant. You're going to get 3 new unique Soulbinds, 1 unique conduit, covenant sanctum trait, story, additional perks and dungeons, follows, transmogs. Covenant choice is going to be in fact impactful towards your whole gameplay, so it is something that it is an important decision, so really think about this. In terms of Renown, and this is going to be something that's going to level up your covenant. And when you swap the covenant, you're gonna have to start from 0, but if you go back to your previous covenant, you're still gonna pick up from where you left off, so that's also mentioned in the guide. Generally speaking, you can see the things that you can unlock. You can unlock benefits, you can unlock Soulbind talents, followers, and things like that. And it is basically capped per week, so you can't do a whole lot of things, but you can read up about additional grinding or how you can optimize this. But generally speaking, you're not gonna miss it type of deal. You're not gonna miss it. It's going to be relatively easy to pick up or relatively easy to know that this quest is important. And now we move on to Covenant Sanctums, and honestly this is something that I completely ignored. Even though I played beta quite a bit, this is going to be something that's gonna give you minimal gain. So if you're not really trying to optimize everything with your character, you don't really need to do it, but again, it's there. And the person who wrote this guide is giving you the best advice in terms of what to build first. It's very similar to Garrison Manager type of deal, and they're basically telling you to get level 1 of Command Table, Anima Explorer, Transport Network, and Covenant Special Building to level 1. They can go to like multiple levels, but it's basically telling you to just get the initial level because you're gonna get a decent bonus from something like the Command Table, which allows you to get followers. And one of the biggest advantages is that your followers will give you a chance of getting a weekly mission for 100 Soul Ash. And Soul Ash is something that you really want to get in terms of crafting your legendaries. There's a lot of other things in terms of armor assists, transmogs, pets and all of that thing and how much you need, but generally speaking, it's not something that, again, you can't do it, but I don't consider this to be a major priority. In terms of farming anima, it also mentions to do 2 PvP world quests, so there is going to be certain amount of PvP grinding if you really want to optimize your character to the max. And again, this anima is going to be used to upgrade basically your command tables and things like that, so everything is kind of tied up in a lot of ways. So now we go to Soulbinds, and I think a lot of people know about Soulbinds in terms of the trees that you get where you can put your little conduits in. So this is a Soulbind, you get kind of 3 different trees, but you can only have 1 active. And this is your conduits that you can unlock and place them. If you want to move your conduit in and out, you're going to have to use conduit energy. And you can read it here, installing a conduit costs 1 energy, and energy is recharged every 24 hours. So if you're a raider who's swapping their conduits on every boss, there's going to be maybe certain issues here. In terms of getting Soulbinds and in terms of getting your legendaries, you can use another document here, which is really nice because it gives you the exact locations of your legendaries conduits. For example, I want to... And you'll notice this, that a lot of your potency conduits drop from dungeons, and then your finesse endurance ones drop from raids. Which means that you, to some extent, are forced to grind Mythic Plus and raids for the best combos. So generally speaking, like for example, I'm gonna play Resto Shaman, and one of the best Soulbinds or conduits is going to be Swirling Currents. And Swirling Currents drops from Mist of Turn Aside. So all of a sudden I want to do this dungeon in order to get this conduit. And you can check it out as well. The list is amazing. Everything's going to be linked in the description. And the exact same thing is going to work for legendaries. For example, I'm going to play Resto Shaman like I mentioned, and I want to get Primal Tidal Core first, and that's going to drop from Torghast out of the Damned level 3+. So I want to do Torghast. So let's go back to the list. Now let's go to the Maw. And this is going to be something that's really important, and if you haven't been paying attention, this might be the time to pay attention. The Maw is going to be your daily grind, and this is going to be really important because it's going to give you, or there is an option of adding sockets, and this is going to cost 7,200 Stygia, I don't know how to say it, and it required reputation. You can only do, and zone 1 is going to be unlocked straight away. You can only do a certain amount of quests before you get these levels. Level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5. What happens during these levels is that it becomes increasingly difficult to quest here. You get these annoying abilities, annoying debuffs. It's honestly a pain, and I kind of hate the whole Maw experience. It requires around 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes per day to do, and you're going to get a certain amount of reputation, a certain amount of, like I mentioned, Stygia. The main reason for this is to get sockets or random conduits. And this is why you want to do this every day. From what I've seen, the 2 most important aspects in Shadowlands is things like the Maw and Torghast, and they don't really have a catch-up system for your alts. Very convenient. So you kind of want to do this on your alts as well. Everything else can kind of wait, but you really want to focus on your Maw and Torghast at the very start at least. So generally speaking, very annoying. Do the daily quests, save up your reputation and things like that. You need reputation in Stygia, and it's going to be very, very, very important. Don't die, because you have a chance of losing some of your Stygia as well. Super fun, right? So let's go to Torghast, and this is another thing that's really important. Like I mentioned, if there's only a couple of things that you're going to pick up from the video, the Maw, Torghast, have to do those. There isn't really a convenient way of catching up on an alt, so you want to get your alts to do it as well. Now, there's been a lot of changes in terms of how Torghast works, because just today they said that it's going to be time gated. and you can see the different levels you can do. Only 2 of these are going to be open at a given time. What you need to remember about this is that on the first week, you'll be able to clear only 3 layers of each wing, and you're gonna have two wings. So clearing both of them will award you with 610 ash. So generally speaking, you have to do this. You have to do this because you need this ash. This ash is going to be used to craft the legendaries. There is no clear catch-up system as I have seen. You want to do this. It's not that hard. You can clear it as a healer if you want. You can group up. You can go from 2 to 5 players or solo content. It really isn't the worst thing. And the way that they time gated it is not that bad, because if there was no time gating, you would have to do so much Torghast in the first week. You would get so bored of it straight away. So I'm actually not against the whole time gating at this point. Have to do Torghast. You have to get legendaries. Legendaries are going to be very, very important. And this brings us to the legendaries. Now you can only have 1 legendary at a given time, or can only wear it. Having crafted a legendary, you will not be able to refund the soul ash for it, so there is no refund mechanism. If you make a mistake or did the wrong thing or the wrong spec, you will have to farm from scratch. Make sure you know which legendary you're going to get, and there's going to be multiple ways of upgrading your legendary. Tier 2 seems to be the sweet spot at this given point. It's very important to note that because Torghast has been capped just today, and now you can only get up to layer 3 max the first week, you will not be able to craft legendary on the first week because you can only do 2 wings, which are going to give you 610 soul ash. And you can see it in this little graph here as well. Leveling and preparing week 1, 610 from Torghast, 200 from a Bulwark quest. Make sure you do it. You won't get anything from mission table. And you need to get 1250 to craft the first legendary. In week 2, you'll be able to do Torghast again. You'll do a Bulwark quest. It's going to give you a bit less. And the mission table is going to come in. This is random, or at least it seems like it. I'm not sure if it's going to be 100%. And this is coming from Covenant Sanctum, and this is coming from the fact that you'll be able to craft command table that's going to give you followers, that has a weekly mission for 100 soul ash. So generally speaking, again, I'm not 100% on that one, but you can see that by week 2 you should definitely be able to craft your first legendary. Reputation, not a huge deal. The only reputation you want to deal with is going to be Venari, and Venari is your Maw. That's the one that you want to add sockets. Very, very important. If you go to PvP, you'll notice that PvP isn't completely mandatory unless you want some PvP gear, which is going to give you a lot of versatility. I think most of the PvP gear is giving you versatility, and there's certain trinkets that are good. So unless you really want to do that, you're not really forced into doing PvP unless you want to min-max. Profession-wise, again, this is a guide for raiders, so they don't mention it, but engineering is probably going to be a mandatory profession for Mythic Plus. Especially healers who don't have battle rest, so basically everyone except for Resto Druid. And now we can go for the gear before raids. You'll notice that the weekly chest is gonna drop you max loot, or weekly chest max loot is gonna be from a Mythic 14. But in order to get the max level at the end of the dungeon, you wanna do a Mythic plus 15. But that's not gonna unlock for quite a bit. You can look at the maximum gear, Mythic Natria, in terms of weekly chest, and the last 2 bosses on Mythic Natria is also going to drop higher level loot. Honestly, you might be super confused reading this whole little list here, and all you need to know is this. In the Shadowlands, you don't really need to farm anything on your main as it was in the power of the artifact in the Legion in BFA. In principle, you could ignore all content except Torghast and the Maw until Heroic Week, and then gear up in Heroic Castle Natria splits or in Mythic Plus without losing too much power. Basically, a lot of the stuff that I mentioned here is to do with, like I mentioned, Covenant Sanctum is to give you some soul ash, a possibility of soul ash, maybe improve your life, give you some world quests. A lot of the stuff here is giving you additional gear. But if you don't really care about the gear at this given point and you want to do the most important things, honestly, the Maw and Torghast is something that does not have an easy catch-up system, and you don't want to fall behind because they're very, very important in terms of legendaries for Torghast, and in terms of, like I mentioned, sockets. You can even see that you can use the Maw currency, which is Stygia, in Torghast to buy certain items to make your Torghast experience better. But why would you ever do that? So it's not recommended to buy any of it at all and leave Stygia for sockets and conduits. Sockets, conduits from the Maw, Torghast legendaries, and you should be okay. Also, the last thing I want to talk about is the weekly chest, and you'll notice that you have a lot more options based on how much content you do. When Heroic Natria is gonna release, you probably want to do at least 4 plus 14 Mythic plus dungeons, because you're gonna get a second option. If you do 10, you get a third option, but 10 Mythic plus dungeons at high level could be a bit high. If you do 3 bosses, you get 1 additional choice from raids, 7 and 10 bosses, and also PvP if you want to get more options. So generally speaking, if you're looking at the gear in terms of my optimization, I think that with the weekly chest being the same level as Mythic Nature gear, I think raiders are gonna have generally an upper hand, because if they're doing raids, they can get some really nice loot. But eventually, I think a lot of the Mythic Plus players are also gonna catch up in terms of weekly chests, because weekly chests are gonna have far more options. So if you're just doing Mythic Plus, I won't be too upset about this, because eventually you will get to the point of the Mythic Raiders. But the Mythic Raiders are gonna have advantage. The last 2 bosses are gonna drop higher loot. At least in here it's gonna be 2, 3, 3. So it really depends on how important the loot is gonna be to progress high Mythic Plus and high raids. But honestly, this guide has been an insanely good resource. I do want to mention other resources in terms of Mythic Plus dungeons. There's a new website, Mythic Trap, that I feel is also very, very interesting, but it only has a specific number of dungeons available right now. But you can see the little, you can have a detailed strategy guide. You can look at the trash mob abilities. You can look at boss fights, what to avoid. This guy got selected, he needs to go behind to bait it. Honestly, I feel like if they're gonna add more stuff, this could be really, really nice. I really like the website design as well. And this is something that I think they want to grow for Mythic Plus. So I wanted to talk about this. And I want to really thank Medivh to providing this insanely good overview. Don't get too overwhelmed, because if you really don't want to do everything, you can just focus on your, like I mentioned, the Maw and Torghast, and it probably should be alright. Guys, let me know how you feel about this little preparation guide. Let me know if you're too overwhelmed about this system. I apologize if I made any mistakes throughout the video. I'm extremely tired. I've been doing 1 video and a stream every single day so far. Let me know how you feel about Shadowlands, and are you hyped?